So I'm Ankur Marfatia. I'm a DevSecOps experience manager at Delta Airlines. My team builds pipelines and works with teams on coaching and mentoring, development and quality practices. So over 60 years ago, the US president then, John F. Kennedy, gave his moon speech, and he used the words, we are in times of change and challenge. We are in days of hope and fear, and we are in a decade of knowledge and ignorance. And those words still reign true even today. It's almost as if he was talking about this day and this decade. I was born a couple of decades after that in a place half a world away from where the speech was given. And I learned about these words probably 3 or 4 decades after that while researching something, and how appropriate that I can use that to start this talk here. So I have been to many conferences. I've heard a lot of people speak. I have heard podcasts. I've read books. And I have done a lot of hands-on workshops. But in the whole entirety, I feel like I know absolutely nothing. There is just so much more to learn. And especially in technology, there are so many different technologies to learn. And if you ever get to a state where you know each technology and all the ways that you can use the technology, you will find somebody will come up and find a better, efficient way to do something with that technology, or they will fork it into a completely new one. And then you have another thing to learn, right? So I know nothing, and I stay in that perpetual state, and I choose to stay there. And you may know a little bit more than me or a lot more than me, but still, since you are here, I would think that you are a curious learner just like me. I think life, it's a journey of continuous learning with no final destinations, just a few milestones on the way. So I come from a company and a culture where we place people first. And it shows because we are one of the very few companies who retain talent over multiple decades. And none of the people who were hired that long ago are surviving with the skills that they had at that time. So it is very important for my company, my organization, and myself to upskill these people, right? And today I'm going to talk about a few programs that we were able to run in our organization, and hopefully that will be helpful to you. So the benefits of networking are very well known to everybody. I mean, there is no debate there. And the same thing applies to knowledge as well, right? These days, the big platforms make it, big social platforms make it very easy for us to share knowledge. But then again, with our increasing number of connections and the marketing material that the platform algorithms will spit at us, it sometimes becomes a little bit tedious to go through your feed to find something that is relevant to you. It is not as personal, right? Most people who are successful will tell you that they have a small network of associates who they share certain articles, blogs, posts with. And I believe that it is beneficial to each and every one of us to build that kind of a network. So share those articles, blogs, hands-on exercises, demos with somebody who you think it is going to be most helpful to, right? And maybe a lot of people here might already be doing it. But if you are not, it is very easy to start. I know a lot of you are always reading some blogs or some articles. So now start thinking about it from somebody else's point of view, right? Will this article be helpful, particularly helpful to somebody that I know? And send that link across to them in a private message, whatever platform you choose, right? And in a few days, you will see that they will respond back with something that you might have missed, but is very, very important to you. And if you're lucky, you've got a learning buddy there. But if you're lucky, then probably in a few weeks, you will have a network of learning buddies. There are a lot of people have a lot of ideas, and a lot of people have a lot of common problems. Now, some of them go ahead and are able to solve these problems. Some of them are not so successful in solving these problems. And all these voices need to be heard. I think sometimes there is a misnomer that only success needs to be heard, because we read case studies and all the case studies always end in success. But I personally feel that there is a lot to learn from failures. And if I cannot learn from my own failures, I would like to learn from somebody else's failures. Actually, I prefer the latter one. I rather not fail. I rather learn from somebody else's failures. So at Delta, we did not have a place, a forum where we could come together and we could discuss these problems, or the problems or their solutions. So we went about to change this. We wanted to give everybody an area, a space, a forum where people can come in and they can discuss how they have tackled their problems, a weekly developer DevOps discussion forum. This has never been done in Delta. So I just had a few people that I knew. I emailed them. I emailed a few influential people like the managers, GMs, directors, to ask their people to come and join us at this session. And a day before the first session, I got an email from somebody that a particular team did not know about this, and that this was not very well advertised, and this is going to be a total failure. They could have been completely right, because this was my first time doing this. But to be humble, and I just send out a note saying, okay, that's fine. I mean, we'll have 30 people in the first session. We'll improve week over week. In our first session, that is the picture of it, we had 70 people. The seating was only available for around 30 people. A lot of people decided to stand at the back, and a lot of people decided to go back to their desk and follow us through, I think, WebEx. And the experience was not great 5 years ago. Or maybe it was not even WebEx. It was just an audio conference call, and we had to send them a deck offline. But people enjoyed it. The point is, people enjoyed having this forum. And today we have around 500 people on our mailing list. We still get complaints that somebody got missed. But ever since then, every Wednesday from noon to 1, we have people joining this forum. From all over the enterprise, teams would come in and tell us about a problem they've solved, a technology that they are looking at, or some ideas of how we can solve some common issues. And what we find in these forums is that a lot of times somebody else has tried this problem. Some of them have been successful, some of them have not been successful. We are lucky to find somebody else who is successful, who has done it a little bit different than how the presenter is telling us. So now we have got two different ways of solving the same problem. Bits and Bytes has been one of our greatest success. The general structure of the session is we start out with a brief introduction, and in the introduction we include local events, internal, external, on the web, meetups like DevOps days or DevOps meetups, so that we can encourage people to go out and learn, because that is basically our source line, right? If people do not go out and learn, they will not come back and teach us anything. So, and then we have the session of the day, we have a healthy discussion, and we end with the next week's topic. Oh, I should go back. So, a lot of people might be thinking that the bytes is spelled wrong here, and a few of you might have deciphered that maybe from the logo that it has to do something with the pizza or food, and it is. Believe me, in any program, food is very, very important, especially the learning one. And I know nobody is going to admit here, but if it was not for all the good food that we got here, some of us might have had second thoughts about coming here. Our executive sponsor was very gracious and was able to sponsor pizza for us for a long period of time. We went into some turbulent times and we lost our pizza money. But that time was good enough to get people into the door and for us to build a loyal brand. So we are thankful for them. The day we lost our pizza money, we also lost a few people. But the true learners stuck around. And as I said, we have 500 people on our mailing list. Not all will attend all the sessions. It's just we get about 70, 80 people every week. But that was great to set up our program. Now, there are so many different things to learn that at some point you would feel, what should I learn? And how should I learn? And when should I learn something, right? Bits and Bytes is good. It's a good forum to spread the knowledge, have the discussions, but there is a time for discussion and then there is a time to act. And it is at this time when you need to act that we find a lot of learners are confused as to how to learn, when to learn, where to learn, when to start, where to start from, right? So this learning circle program that we devised was exactly created for that purpose. So every learning circle session, which is it is based on the philosophy of tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. Every 90-minute session of the learning session, we have somebody from the team come up and teach us a technology that they are knowledgeable in. Or even if they are not knowledgeable in, we trust that person to go out, learn it, and then teach us this technology or method or whatever you call it, practice. So the structure of that learning circle is that we start with a simple pre-test to educate what is the baseline understanding that the group has of the topic. Then we go into a short discussion on the topic. Then we go and do some hands-on or follow-along exercise so that people can solidify the learnings from the earlier part of the session. And finally, we go and have a post-test and Q&A. So what we have found is from pre-test to post-test, we have been able to increase people's learning by 25%. Now, the key thing is that you need to make sure that the pre-test that you set in is quite easy for a large portion of the audience because you want them interested. And the 25% may have a little bit to do with it, but a lot of it has to do with science. It has been proven that if you are trying to learn something and you give a pre-test unprepared, then during the learning, your brain cells are a little bit more keener to find out if you gave the right answer, and if you did not, what is the right answer. So you are a lot more focused on the session itself. We do these sessions every alternate Fridays. That gives us the other Fridays to prepare and structure the sessions. Every week we have a new person presenting, so it is sometimes very new for them to even present the material. But we have got around 100-150 people attending, in most parts because of the hands-on sessions that we have during the session. So while designing a learning program, let's take a step back. When designing a learning program, you need to understand that everybody learns differently, in a different setting, in a different way. Some people learn by listening to podcasts. Some people learn by listening to sessions. Some people like you here are like to learn from an in-person session. Some people like to watch videos. Some people like to do hands-on sessions. Some people like to watch training videos and slow it down a little bit and follow along. And then there are others who would go ahead and change a few things just to challenge themselves. There are people who will listen to a session very quietly. Some people will go ahead and ask questions. Some of them will go and understand the topic as soon as they are hearing it. Whereas some are going to replay the session multiple times in their head till they figure out what the speaker was trying to convey. And for some people, it takes up to 6 months to understand what they had learned from a session. And if everybody is thinking 6 months, what is he talking about? 6 months seems a long period of time. Believe me, I've seen puzzle looks in sessions, and then 6 months down the line, somebody in the corridors of Delta will come and hug me and say, "Oh, I finally got what you said 6 months ago, and it helped me reap the benefits. So thank you very much." And if you still don't believe me that some people may take a longer time to understand, let me tell you a story that probably everybody here is familiar with. Everybody must have heard the apple story of Newton, right? Or any variation of it. Now, nobody knows which variation was true or any of those variations was true. But apparently the story goes that Sir Isaac Newton, who is considered a genius, was on one summer afternoon, he was sitting in an apple orchard trying to read something or think, or maybe he was just watching the ladies, I don't know. But he was right there, and an apple fell on his head, and he found a moment of inspiration, and he was able to discover gravity. Now, have you thought about it? Gravity was always there. That was not the first ever apple tree or the first apple to fall off a tree. Maybe not even the first apple to fall off that tree, or maybe the first apple to fall off that tree on that afternoon. Newton was not a kid at that time. He was a young adult. So he had seen a lot of apple trees, a lot of apples fallen on the ground, a lot of apples falling from a tree. But never before in his life, it took him significant amount of time to associate the falling of the apple to a gravitational force and discovering it. So if it can take Newton this long a time to understand, it is not an exaggeration that some of us might take a little bit longer to learn than others. The basic point remains that everybody learns differently, and you need to know your audience, and in your audience there is going to be one person of each of these characteristics, or a person made up of multiple portions of these characteristics. Just like any other company in the world, Delta Airlines is going through a cloud, a digital, a cultural transformation. And at Delta, we decided to create learning paths. So the first part of creating the learning paths was to identify the core skills that we required for our organization. Then we went ahead and we decided what are the roles that we want our people to play in our organization. Then we went ahead and mapped what key skills would be mapped to these roles, and at what calibration level should each of these be present in each of these roles. Each of the key skills should be present in each of the roles. So it was almost like creating a color palette out of primary colors. So once we had all these roles, we started creating a learning journey for each of our associates. They were major generalizations, but those generalizations really helped us. We left the specifics to the resource managers and individuals themselves, because again, everybody is at a different point and they start at a different point in their learning journey. But what we were able to do was we were able to use our partners like AWS, IBM, Red Hat, and our platform partners like Percipio and Pluralsight to build a starter curriculum for everybody. The partners were able to give us some interactive sessions, and then the platforms such as Percipio and Pluralsight were able to give us a static playlist that each of the roles could get started on. And at the end of all this, we had a very good idea as to what direction we wanted to take our learning into. So once we had done that, we started designing a curriculum. So our approach was to get people from all the various areas of technology that are present in our organization, such as security, agile, quality, development practice, and we got able and knowledgeable people from each of those groups and started calling them our coaches. We challenged our coaches to go and compile a list of topics that we would like to teach our learners across the enterprise. And once we had those topics, we divided them into subtopics and gave it back to the coaches to research how these topics, subtopics should be presented to a learner. Then we all got together and structured the learnings in a digestible manner for the learners. And once we had our courses ready, we started dividing them up into workshops, lectures, and various other hands-on activities, various categories. And this gave us a huge catalog of courses we could offer to our enterprise, to our people, and start our learning phenomena and our learning journey. So we started out with boot camps. Boot camps are very good for having to spread the knowledge and to spread the idea of a learning phenomena, right? And our boot camps were day-long sessions. Our coaches would have, Delta has got two offices, major IT offices. One is in Atlanta in the southeast, and one is in the Midwest, Minnesota. It is towards the north. So our coaches would travel between the two locations, probably 2 or 3 days of a month. We had around 5 to 6 boot camp sessions planned. We didn't do all of them every month. It was just based on need. So the boot camp session, as I said, would be day-long sessions. The mornings would be filled up with a bunch of lectures, and the afternoon after lunch, we would have hands-on sessions related to the learnings of the morning. And the designing the curriculum for boot camps was very similar to how we had the overall curriculum. We just picked mostly we kept to the 100 and 200 level courses, which are our basic and intermediate level courses. We had our 300 level courses, which is a little bit advanced in our back pocket, just in case we found an advanced learner turn up to our sessions. But it was a great advertisement for learning, and it was a great advertisement to get people started. In Japanese culture, a dojo is a place for integral learning and meditation. So our dojo, we basically focused on the learning part. I don't think so we did much meditation there. But the idea was that we created a space away from a team's regular space, where we would take them for 8 weeks, and they would be able to learn with our coaches or work with our coaches every day, and try to improve their understanding of the day-to-day work or the technical behaviors that we wanted to enforce into our or suggest into our organization. So we would start with a basic intake session with the team to understand what the needs for that team was, how they were working today, and what would they be looking for from us. This helped us to make sure we had the tools to make them successful well in advance of them coming into our dojo. Once at the dojo, the very first day, we would do a detailed maturity assessment of where the teams were in the different aspects that we were going to train them, educate them in, like security, APIs, development, quality, agile, and even architecture and design thinking. This assessment would give us a baseline of where they were and how our coaches were going to work with them over the next 8 weeks. We did these assessments a couple of more times, once in the middle of our engagement in week 4 or 5, and once again at the end. The assessment in the middle gave us some clues about if we weren't going the right direction or we needed course correction. The same for them as well. And in the end, it helped us measure as to what was the impact that we made on this team when they came in. Our days in these sessions were basically having structured learning intermingled with a lot of teams doing their regular work. They were encouraged that whatever they learned from the coaches, they would implement into their daily work. Some of the people were successful in doing that, some of them not so much. But everybody who came into our dojo was a better version of themselves when they graduated from the dojo. And of course, they were soldiers in our learning transformation. So that was always the benefit there. Hackathons are a magical place. They are completely different. They change the spirit of a person. Usually, hackathons are run over the weekend with a lot of innovation going on, a lot of ideas flowing freely. We, in our quest to spread our learning culture, we stretched it to an extreme. We decided to make it into a festival of learning. We ran our hackathon in October of 2019 for over a week. Our hackers, while they were going in trying to solve a complex problem, we gave them an opportunity by interspersing the day with learning sessions from our vendors and our local tech experts. And we also had our tech experts available in case these hackers got stuck into and needed some help with some problem. The idea was that we wanted to spread as much learning as possible. Even in our judging criteria, we made sure that we added some technical behaviors so that we could push people towards those behaviors. It was a huge success. Our hackathon was a huge success and is still talked about in the corridors of Delta. Coincidentally, there is a hackathon going to kick off, I think so, in a few hours in Bangalore, India, where we have our newest tech hub. And hopefully that will be as much fun as our hackathon in 2019 was. It is not possible for each and every team to come in for 8 weeks for learning. It may not even be possible for the entire team to come in for an 8-hour session for boot camp. So our next offering was ad hoc sessions. Teams could approach us with their specific needs, a problem they're trying to solve, a technology that they're trying to introduce to in their group, and we would set up an ad hoc hour, 2-hour session with them. This gave them an intimate setting where a discussion would freely flow, and people would be able to pick from our catalog and learn something that they would normally not be able to learn. In 1965, Bruce Tuckman came up with the model forming, norming, storming, performing for group development. And these days with Agile and DevOps way of working, that has become very popular. We are trying to have long-standing teams, but in reality, life happens. I mean, people move companies, people move departments, people get a new job, people get promoted. So it almost feels like the norming continues forever, and storming seems a little bit too difficult of a dream to achieve. And if you do, then it again gets disrupted. So our onboarding services sought to help that out. A team could come up to us and they could tell us they have a new recruit, and what are the requirements of the team, what is the role that this new recruit is going to play, and we would structure some learning directed towards that, and that would help the new recruit and the team. The goal was to assimilate these new recruits into the team as smooth and as seamlessly as possible, so that we do not have friction within the team. They don't have to spend too much time norming, and they can go to the storming phase as soon as possible. The secondary objective that we had was that each of these people would be able to go out and educate the team that they are going to of the programs that we run and the cultural learning that we want to promote at Delta. Now, all these programs seem very good, But the secret ingredient, there are two secret ingredients. Number one is, for any program to be successful, you need to have leadership buy-in. And the second secret is that people will follow their leaders. So we started to start out from the very top. And very top, we mean VPs at Delta IT. Each of the VPs at Delta IT has committed an hour every month where they mentor or they coach a small group of people. Now at the top level, the technology learning, there might not be as much appetite for technological learning, but there is a lot of appetite for behavioral learning. So we worked with these VPs to come up with topics that they could, based on behavioral topics that we wanted our organization, in our organization, so that we would be able to grow. And these sessions are targeted towards basically the leaders or future leaders, but there is a strong message that goes through, and which is that the learning is not just for the technical folks, but learning is strong part of Delta's culture, and that has helped us a lot in promoting our programs. So in conclusion, learning is a never-ending journey. Everybody starts from a different place. Everybody learns differently. Everybody has their different sets of needs. But as long as we have people in, or we are in a place of a learning culture, there will be progress made. And that is very important to understand. Also, one size does not fit everybody. People learn differently. As we discussed before, some people learn by listening, some people learn by watching, some people learn by doing. Knowledge increases by sharing. So continue to share the knowledge as much as possible. A learning culture cannot be set up by one person. I was not the only person who was responsible for this learning culture. I had a lot of partners. I had Miguel, Lauren, Jason, Courtney, Taekwanda, Keenan, Jasmine, Frank, plenty of people to thank for this learning culture that we were able to set up. Some of them came before me, some of them worked with me, some of them are still working with me. So a big thank you out to them. Also big thank you out to DevOps Days Geneva for having me here. And this was our journey. This was our way of doing things. Some of them worked well for us. Some of them will work better for you. But thank you for being a patient audience and listening to my story. I'll open up the floors if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Ankur.